Hello, you bright and shiny people. Hopefully you can hear me well because this is the first ever event held by Dobra. So I think you may have two questions right now, even though we're not even 30 seconds in, and I probably have the answers to them. So the first one is, who are you, the person in the screen talking to me right now? And the second one is, what is happening tonight? I think I have the answers to those two. So the first one is, hi there, my name is Alexander. I'm a mental health podcaster for 4 years and counting now. And I'm delighted to be a host tonight for Mental Health Think Tank, held by Dobra for Dobra Grand Prix. So what is that and what is going to happen tonight? So Dobra is actually lots of things. First of all, it's Dobra Studio. It's a venture builder working with new teams which are going to be built during Dobra Grand Prix. So next question is, what is Dobra Grand Prix? Dobra Grand Prix is a series of world collaborative events for inventing new concept solutions. And it is actually lots of things, but the most important one is what it does. So basically, Dobra Grand Prix is built for you to share your ideas, to explore new ideas, and to make new connections and startups along the way. So tonight, our mental health think tank is brought to you mostly to get those ideas, to start thinking about them, and to pop into our idea chain, which I'll talk about in a little bit. What is that? That's quite an interesting thing, to be honest. But first of all, I think we need to hear from someone who knows about this even more than I do. I think we have to hear something from the co-founder of Dobra, Alexander Skrabowski, who's going to talk about what is happening tonight, why is it happening tonight, and what is going to happen further. So can we hear something from Alexander right now? Okay, that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Hello, Alexander.
Hello.
Can you
Hello,
tell us what
Alexander.
is happening tonight? What is that? Why are we
I
here?
don't know myself too, yeah. Thank you, Alexander, for representing. Thank you for intro us. I will share you some thoughts about Dobra Impact Manager Studio. Thank you for joining us this evening. And oh yeah, I have a clicker too. So Dobra means as well as it should be. So we all about positive impact. We are Impact Venture Studio, so alongside with finance return, we want to have a positive impact, huge positive impact for million peoples. We want to tackle with truly venture, with truly challenges that we can work. We are studio. It means that we are not seeking established startup from market. We establish it ourselves in-house from the people and from the teams after our Grand Prix. We work from zero to seed. it's conscious our position. We don't want to compete. We want to be a supplier of properly cooked startups for venture markets. What does it mean? It means that all legal issues, all operational process, some development of team, prototyping, test beds, and other things that we can do, we will do. And our core team will alongside with teams that will work on startups. We will have a thematic cohort, and there is an interesting magic of our model, because for each Grand Prix, we choose one topic. There is a mental health or mental well-being right now, and all startups that we will form in the future will work with this team. Maybe some enough, maybe some another subtopic, maybe some another domain, but all of them, all of cohort will work around one topic. And cohort investment. The second point, it's let us get a less risky portfolio. We let for investor invest in all cohort at once. How we will do it? We strongly believe in human intelligence and diversity. And so this is the first point of our journey. We strongly believe in creative and collaborative technique. So we have our own web application idea chain. You will see it in a minute, maybe. And all of this will be based on technology, because technology is the only thing that makes possible to not just better solution, make better solution, but scale it. It's crucial for impact. And another role is enrich. All of our process stay on the position that we need enrich each other. We need enrich one thought and other thoughts. We need collaborate with it. So we use this word, world-being. It's well-being, but for world, yeah? It's Captain Obvious here. But right now, we will speak about mental health. Why about mental health? We did a great research. We find 40 topics that caused world being in a future, in a 3 decades in the future. One of them is mental health. So mental health concerns all of us. It's a huge issue for our world. It's a huge issue right now when we have a post-COVID time, war time, not just in Ukraine, but Ukraine, we're with you, we stand with you. So it's a huge issue. We want to find extraordinary solution. Help us, please. Join us, please. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexander. Thank you for this warm welcoming and this loads of info on what is Dobra. So before we kickstart our program, I would love to introduce you to why we actually do this tonight. So for the next less than 2 hours, we will explore what is mental health today, where it was leading us before, and the most important question, what is needed to be done in mental health industry by you, the newcomers, the new founders, the new people in this sector, for us to have better mental health. Because mental health is not just interesting or fun and everything, it's essential, because 1 in 4 people will have something happening to their mental health during their lifetime. This is a lot of people. So tonight, the main point for us is actually for you to join DÓBRA Grand Prix. So DÓBRA Grand Prix actually gathers everyone and wants you to join us, even if you're not a founder or even you don't think of yourself as a founder. Actually, DÓBRA Grand Prix is for everyone. You can explore ideas, you can add ideas, you can see what you can do, you can see what other people are doing, and just share your feedback, because everything matters because of the idea chain. It is an interesting thing. It is a proprietary online tool built by DÓBRA Team so that everyone who shares their mind or just joins any startup who's going to be grown inside DÓBRA Studio gets tokens and get rewarded with tokens. So I would love to share with you the address where you can find it. So it's DÓBRA Pre. So sorry, it's Grand Prix Dobra.world. I think the tech team can actually show the address right now. So it's grandprix.dobra.world. You can see the QR code on your screen right now. You can just scan it and explore what is Grand Prix. So it's grandprix.dobra.world. So I think we can go forward now. All right, so Grand Prix is something which is going to happen over the course of the next 2 weeks, but tonight is a very special event, not because it's the first ever event held by DÓBRA, it's the first ever event for this Grand Prix. So this mental health think tank is about 10 to 20,000 tech solutions that we have today. Just think about it, 10 to 20,000 tech solutions. And all of them are meant to help us with our mental health, but not all of them do that, actually. So tonight, me and our speakers are going to explore one big topic on what we can do to change that. So to dive in and to do everything we need to explore that, let's just go ahead. So just to let you know, we will have 2 big parts of Think Tank tonight. So the first one is where we'll hear from startup founders, which are just like you, to be honest. They will share their stories, their up and downs and everything, so you will know what to expect when you're a startup founder. And after that, we'll have a panel discussion with big, huge experts who share with me the info on how we can build a better mental health startup today. So without further ado, I would love to just remind you that we have a very special app called Slido. So you can use it to ask the questions. We'll have 2 Q&As. The first one for the startup founders and the second one for the panel discussion. So just use Slido, which you'll see on screen. There's QR code. Just scan it. Yep, this one. Just scan it. Use the app. Ask your questions during the talks. And I will ask those questions to the people just a little bit later on. So without further ado, let's start with the first speaker for tonight. So this is going to be Vitalijus Majorovas from Lithuania, who's the co-founder of Pulsetto. So Pulsetto is an interesting thing. It's a state-of-the-art wearable device that uses vagus nerve stimulation to biohack. That's a cool word to use. The parasympathetic nervous system to manage and balance stress and anxiety levels, to improve sleep and overall well-being whenever and wherever you are. So in just 9 months, they went from nothing, just an idea, to building hardware, which is a really hard thing to do. So let's hear what he has to say about ups and downs and what he and his team has learned during the way.
So, hey, hello. Yeah, you can see me. So my name is Vitalijus. I'm one of the co-founders of company Pulsetto. It's a vagus nerve stimulator, wearable device. Like you see on this slide, it's a device which you put on the neck, and you are stimulating by electric stimulation the nerve, which is very active on the neck region. And whenever you are stimulating this nerve, you are getting you are getting huge advantages of a lot of things. Your heart rate is dropping, your heart rate variability is increasing, blood pressure is dropping, head pain is decreasing, and etc. It's basically vagus nerve is most important nerve for the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. So we have two stories of Pulsetto. One story is that we made this from idea to first sales in 9 months, this hardware, when usually in the hardware business it's like 3 years minimum. So, and the second story, how we hustle in the beginning, because when we launched the Pulsetto, we are selling this device in Western Europe and US. So when we launched the device, it was very tough, big competition and etc. But at this moment, we are scaling very fast. So this is the second story, which I will not speak. But if you want, you can find me after the conference with a lot of marketing and sales tricks. But yeah, I mean, I have like a 20 slides and only 7 minutes. So I will give you like a shortcut of this first story, how we built this in 9 months. My main message for you that you need to challenge every step of the process, whatever you're building, software, hardware, doesn't matter. For example, this is the slide where you see the typical hardware process. A lot of steps, and usually, like I said, it's 3 years time. So whenever we did something, always was people who was saying, no, it's impossible. It's impossible to make prototype in 3 months. It's impossible to make injection mold in 6 months. It's impossible to make FCC certification in 1 month. Everybody was saying it's impossible, it's impossible. But if you have strong team, and I successfully built good team of experts, you need to challenge everybody. You need always to cut timelines and deadlines by at least by 3. So if somebody is saying 3 months, can we do it in 1 month? So it was, all this journey was like that. So we built electric signal and the PCB, the schema. After that, you see, we made basically our engineers made this stuff, and I said to them, okay, now we need to decrease the size of this by 4, because this will not fit in our design, you know. Then we built a design. We had like hundreds of design versions. We chose one, and then we made a 3D printing. You see, this is already the 3D printed device. We made it in 3 months. And then we already inserted the electric schema in the 3D printed device. So it took us like from scratch to this 3 months. Yeah, averagely everybody was saying like it will take like 9 months, something like that. Then we showed this to several investors, and yeah, we created app, because our devices you can manage by app, some app mockups and etc. Then we created huge schema how further we will go, and then we got investment from Kilohealth because they believe in us. They saw, okay, these guys can make the prototype in 3 months. It means that they can make some kind of good stuff, you know. So we got investment, and this, of course, this money allowed us to boost the process even faster. So in the end of the story, this is what we had after 9 months. The device with a normal plastic, with injection molds, with a lot of iterations, a lot of fails and trials and damaged devices and etc. But this is the end let's say product which we have. And yeah, we started this product sales in summer of last year. And like I said, then the second story starts, because the first months was terrible. We tried bunch of pricing strategies, bunch of marketing angles, bunch of channels, and etc. But in the end of the day, now it's really nice. I believe that this year will reach at least 2 million sales in revenue. So yeah, and one of our success stories was Indiegogo. We still on Indiegogo. This is the crowdfunding platform, and this is how, let's say, we are boosting the sales. We already sold more than 250,000 euro on Indiegogo. So this created some kind of credibility, authority of our product, and we have a bunch of positive feedback also from the customers. They are leaving feedback on the Indiegogo discussion and etc. So yes, main reason of this, let's say, journey success is the team. Somehow I cannot move the slide further, but basically, yeah, only strong team. can make this so successfully. We are still working with the people who started in the beginning. So same engineers, same mechanics, same industrial designers, same marketing guys. We didn't change nothing. I mean, the people didn't leave us. We are already 1.5 years company, and only the strong team can do it. But my main message for the all startup guys who are making the startups, you always need to challenge. And don't believe always in the other opinion, in even experts' opinion. Opinion is not a fact, you know. So if you have goal, you need always to challenge, always to cut. If somebody is saying 3 months, if somebody is saying 10,000, you are cutting at least by 3. So this is my main message. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vitalijus. Thank you so much for the talk. And I think this is the challenge for us tonight. And this is a great message for us and everyone to get a challenge every time. So, all right, this was our first speaker. Thank you so much, Vitalijus, for kickstarting our journey on learning from startup founders. So the next up on our speakers list is Dr. Kadri Haljas from Estonia, who's the founder and CEO of Trim Health. So she's working with children's mental health and wellness, and she's going to talk about how to scale the impact of therapy and create preventative mental health technologies. So Trim Health is a startup developing Trimflan Saga, which is the game that guides your children through a fun journey to help the players cope with different day-to-day situations. And this game also aids in the development of children with traumatic experiences, which have happened not for good reason during the past years and many years, to be honest. So right now, we would love to learn from Kadri, from Dr. Kadri, on her insights and her ideas on do's and don'ts of the mental health tech development, and why is it important not to overpromise when you're working with mental health and your well-being. So let's hear from Dr. Kadri on what she has to say about it.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the event. I'm very happy to give you a little bit of my own background and tell you my story, what it actually means to be a mental health innovator and to do anything in this field to advance it and make a change in the world. I'm Kadri Haljas, the founder and CEO of Triumph Health. I have more than 15 years of experience now in the field of mental health. I have been a researcher, been a child psychologist at the psychiatry hospital, and since 2016 I identify myself now as a mental health innovator and the founder of Triumph Health. Triumph Health itself is a company that has created a new way to approach mental health management for children. We are working with children between the ages of 7 to 12 to prevent the development of mental health disorders. And we do this because it's known that more than half of all mental health disorders develop before the age of 14. So we really need to do something in order to really make a difference and prevent it. Because the field of mental health is very reactive these days, or it has always been. We only seek for mental health support when very serious problems are already there. And we have no other option than to deal with those issues. And mental health disorders, unfortunately, are one of the biggest contributors to any kind of changes, negative changes in our quality of life, because when these are already developed, then it affects our life throughout our life course. So when children develop it, then the whole life is going to be a smaller or bigger battle with mental health issues. We treat children as the real experts. Our team of psychologists with multiple different backgrounds still consider children to be the ones who know the best what works for them, what is helpful for them, and it is our job to make sure that we are addressing those needs and not only proposing our own knowledge on them, but really making sure that they are involved and their voices are heard. Because sometimes it happens when you are maybe a very avid social media user, the algorithms tend to put a lot of ADHD content in your hands. This happens globally, that it's very popular to focus on ADHD, and everyone has it, whether you're a child, an adult, elderly. It's just very common to see all the symptoms directing to attention deficit disorder. And this is not the only thing in the world, right? There are many other things that are out there that are important to address, and even more important to prevent. And like I said, the stakeholders, clinical psychology, psychiatry, all the mental health ecosystem, it's very traditional. And the way we perceive how mental health is managed is through one-to-one visits. And if you want to change it, and you know that that everything that, for example, I always say that everything that I have in my head, my brain, and in the brains of other psychologists in our team, we have put in our game, because it's a gamified, not a gamified solution, it's an actual game for children, but all the content is based on various psychotherapeutic methodologies that work well in a traditional setting. But if you want to put them in an innovation and utilize technology in order to scale mental health support, then you are going to face a lot of obstacles, and you need to be prepared for that. We need a lot of mental health tools. This is already empowering for people if they would see that they have a choice to select from, and the choice is not only alternative, which is very popular these days, but choices in technology as well, that they can test and try and decide whether they like something or not. And the way how you do it is in your hands and in your creative mind, how you would like to make a difference. So currently, the problem is not in funding anymore, because even investors are understanding that we need to invest in mental health innovation and technology in general. And also governments are making, at least on a level of strategy, they are making sure that that technology is, the implementation of technology is included in their strategies and prevention and promotion efforts as well, because no human being can take a hand of another person and carry them through the life 24/7, right? No psychologist can do that. Nobody can be there for someone all the time, but technology has this opportunity, because technology can be in the pocket all the time for a user and be there when the need arises, and really make a difference in the way how we perceive, how we manage mental health, because 99.9% of the time we are alone with our worries. So technology will not leave us alone from that side. So that the best way is to utilize technology in a beneficial way, not only for entertainment, but truly for mental health management. We deliver mental health support from the prevention and promotion perspective through a game environment. So game is something that we usually see as something that is entertaining and mindless activity. And in our case, that means that we need to compete with all of those fun games, but not only games, also TikTok. But if you are a mental health startup founder, first and foremost, make it evidence-based. Don't go into direction of something like esoteric or alternative because everyone else is doing the same thing. It's only a short-term, like have a long-term impact in mind, and actually want to make a difference and do no harm. So please make sure that you spend a lot of time and effort on R&D and making sure that your solution actually does what it says that it does, and only then start the marketing and sales efforts. Do not, I know that it's the completely opposite of what is said during any kind of startup event, but it is different in the field of mental health. The ideal tech solution for mental health is allowing users to decide what they like. None of the, for example, myself as a child psychologist, I'm never smart enough to know all the techniques that are out there, all the schools of thought, all the evidence-based methodologies. I might be trained in a couple of those, but I don't know what else is out there and how these might be beneficial for people. But from the perspective of technology, we shouldn't discriminate. Like like we discriminate the methods based on our own training. So the most useful ones are those solutions that are not restrictive of a methodology, although, of course, Calm and Headspace that are both using mindfulness and meditation methodology, these are very beneficial, but this is just one technique, and meditation might not work for everyone, talking therapy might not work for everyone, and so on. So then to combine different methodologies would be the key to success. This is what we are doing for children. It is doable. It is not something that is just a wet dream. It is doable, but it takes time and it takes a lot of effort and a very strong team in order to know what different methodologies are out there, and making sure that these are evidence-based, not only based on someone's subjective understanding that, I don't know, praying towards the moon helped me to get to something. Maybe there are better tools or better methods out there.
Thanks a lot, Kadri. I think we're in a good running track today. So without further ado, let's hear what our next speaker has to tell us about their journey. So the next one is Nikita Brosimo from Poland, who's the CEO and founder of Exalo and ex-CEO and co-founder of Weatherwell, which is an AI-based weather app focused on your health. And as one of the company's co-founders, Nikita has built the project from scratch to PMF, and now he starts a new chapter with Exalo, which is an AI-driven games for mental health and cognition enhancement. So during his talk, Nikita is going to share his collected insights that are reasonable to consider for the mental health startup. So let's hear what he has to say about it.
Okay, so looks like we all settled down. So is it fine? Okay, perfect. So how are you doing in such a lovely place? So, hey, my name is Nikita, and I guess for the last 3 years, I've building health tech products. And thanks for having me today, by the way. So my last project was Weatherwell. It's a meteor sensitivity and weather app that predicts health insights and give you health recommendation based on the weather around you. And our team built this project from the scratch, from the idea, and made it reach product market fit. So today I'm gonna share some insights, I hope you will enjoy it, which I personally plan to implement in my new mental health project, by the way. And yeah, so let's begin. Number one. So basically, content is a king in a health tech product because it's your primary information strategy. And that's why we, as a product builders, should avoid blur words, vague messages, and so on to explain something to our users. So please be accurate always and stick to the point. So the best thing you can do for your users is to deliver clear messages and explain the rationale behind them. Number two, in the era of the information security, it's obvious that it's getting harder to get some data, users' consent to data usage, and it's getting harder to get users' consent on a data usage. And in a health tech, it works almost the same way, but a bit different because it's still very hard to get some content, but users will love to do so if you can explain clearly the rationale behind what you are doing with this data. So please explain that this data will tailor the services and the information in your product, and they will love it to share the sensitive pieces of information with you. Number three, so health topics such as mental health or, for example, meteor sensitivity in my previous project are coming more and more to our lives. People who have such challenges in these spheres still suffer from some, let's say, stigmatization of their problems in society. And that's why one of our roles as a product builders is to reduce this stigma and help our users. So please stay away from such words as diseases, disorders, sickness, and preferably stay away from, I guess, problem also. Users will be so much grateful to you for this fact. Number 4, we all, I hope so, we all love AI and machine learning because it sounds cool, first of all, and our investors love this, our users love this, and eventually we as a product builders love that. Because I guess we like the idea that it can find some sophisticated patterns about our users. And personally, I use machine learning as one of the key features in my products. However, it might be not the best takeoff strategy, so the start strategy for a startup in the initial phase of the product, because it's very demanding to the amount of data you have, and also it's very demanding to in-house expertise in your team. Alternatively, you can consider just a regular algorithm, so some heuristics, to hit the same level of accuracy in your predictions. Number 5, almost the last one. So first impression matters, and definitely it matters more in terms of product experience. But we, as a product builders, should be focused not on only the first aha moment, but we should be focused on what will retain our users in 30, 60, or 1,000 days. Try to think not in terms of sophisticated features, complex UI, some technologies, and whatsoever. Try to think in terms of what will make this product for your users and how your users will implement this product into their daily routine. And I guess the last one, but for sure not the least one, as always. I know that sometimes it might be extremely challenging to build something in a health tech, like really extremely challenging, because it's very sensitive, it's very highly competitive, and a complex topic with a lot of risks, obstacles, and so on. However, it's also full of opportunities to improve someone's life quality. And when you see how your product helps someone to alleviate their pain, it will always pay you off. I guess that's the primary reason why we are all here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nikita. Thank you so much for joining what you have learned during the way. And I think it's time to go further and welcome our next speaker and what she has to tell us about her journey so far. So I'm delighted to hear what Julia Byslakova from Ukraine, who's the co-founder of Cell Lab, has to say about helping the helpers, on how to reduce the burden on psychotherapists with the help of technology. So let's see what Julia has to tell us about it.
Вітаю, ми з України. I'm Julia Byslakova, co-founder of Ukrainian psi-tech startup Solar. Our team develops software products for recruiting, assessment, and forming of successful teams. During the war, we focused our efforts on creating psychotherapeutic products for anxiety and stress reduction, and developing software for online testing people's psycho-emotional state. So today I will bring light on this specific product called the DÓBRA. In Ukraine, it means back to home or be on the way to home. How did the idea for the product come about, and what problem does it solve? We quickly realized that this war is long-term and without rules, and so its effects on people, mental health will be considerable. In Ukraine, millions of people are suffering by complex trauma, including witness trauma. The World Health Organization estimates that there are already 10 million people with stress disorders in Ukraine, and more than 14 million have been migrated in or out of the country. The war continues, and the need for psychotherapeutic help is growing. It could be said that Ukraine now is the country with greatest need for mental health support. In the past, people wanted mostly to know about their strengths, their development area, to get some career or relationship advice. But now, for many, timely psychotherapeutic assistance has become a matter of maintaining their psyche and their ability to cope with their lives. When people need psychological support, they seek it from those who share the same cultural background, understand context, and speak the same language. The demand for remote assistance has risen sharply in connection with geographically dispersed people. We create products precisely for people who provide such help. Is this problem only for Ukrainians, you can ask me? We are witnessing the biggest war since the Second World War, natural disasters of recent times, tense political processes, food and environmental problems, post-COVID effects, and we predict the further increase in anxiety and stress disorders around the world. The DÓBRA project team proposed a complete solution, integrate online psycho-emotional diagnosis with text reports in the clinical psychology language and audiovisual composition to reduce the stress, tension, and anxiety for use by therapists in combination with other methods. Our approach is called integral psychodynamic diagnosis. The approach is scientifically confirmed and has been tested in variety of formats, from clinical diagnosis to employment selection and career guidance. Our software tests and provides a detailed report by processing the responses and choices of respondents and linking the scores to libraries with text description. The libraries are unique. They are our key intellectual value. The ones we have already created and the ones we are working on now. On the screen, you can see the structure of the DÓBRA report. This is not yet artificial intelligence, but the result of processing research and data from 30 years of practice of the approach and the data that we now receive and analyze in Ukraine. In addition, we use methods of mathematical statistical analysis to process data sets. More than 50,000 reports have been made based on this method. In testing the new DÓBRA products, we processed 200 profiles manually, simulated the work of software, and we are now testing the product in partnership with several official psychological support organizations in Ukraine. What has been the hardest part of our journey from 0 to 1? It was difficult to maintain our team in the face with real-life threats and incredible level of stress. The second difficulty is it not common in Ukraine culture to systematically seek psychological help. At the beginning of the war, only 3% of population sought psychological help. Psychoeducation and overcoming the barrier of first contact with a psychotherapist. This work is already being by the government, non-profit organization, psychotherapists, psychologists, and partly by us promoting the product through crowdfunding platform, publication, webinar for psychologists, and not only. The third challenge is test-taking time. The acceleration of live forms the expectation testing must be short, but personality is complex. Rapid testing doesn't catch all these layers. We are also working on integration of our product in the national wide of psychological support. Here we see the opportunities, and at the same time we faced what seems to be a limitation. There are international protocols recommended by the World Health Organization. The practice of their application in Ukraine now shows that they are insufficient for the scale of traumatic experience. Protocols are a humanitarian technology. that is based on live contact. We are, on the other hand, working to expand the range of technical solutions available online. What should mental health startup founders always keep in mind? In our opinion, it's important to provide as much privacy for users and security to personal data as possible. People want to understand what has happened to them, but at the same time, they are afraid to make this information available for others. Also, expands the range of user case from self-help to clinical conditions, and see the importance of thinking in ecosystematic terms. Psychological services are overregulated, which is mostly correct, but limits the search for time-appropriate solutions. How did we see the ideal tech solution for mental health? People want a magic. It's a human nature. The perfect solution looks like a magic safe deal on the inside, requires little efforts from the customer, from users, and complex inside, difficult for competitors to copy. This is why we create audiovisual composition and additional to testing, which require no efforts from recipient. To conclude, I would like to say Ukraine is facing difficult challenges. Restore not only the economy, the infrastructure, but also the mental health of the nation. It's hard for us, but we are not scared. We are looking for solutions. And we believe that the solution found and tested here now in Ukraine will be useful globally. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Julia, for sharing this with us. And thank you for the valuable insights with this one. And actually, it's time for our Q&A session right now, which I wanted to start with Julia, to be honest, because I have a very personal question to her regarding the startup and things that she does. So, Julia, first of all, thank you so much for coming and for joining us tonight. How are you feeling tonight?
Thank you. Not bad.
Not bad. It's a good thing.
I think we have a high level of adaptation to this situation.
Indeed. So actually, my question would be not actually about your product, because your presentation was really thoughtful and had everything in it. I think my question is actually more about you personally. So I know that the profession of helping people and even helping people to help people is really enormous and takes lots of energy. So my personal question is, how do you keep yourself going and doing that? How do you support yourself? Because I know that you're a very kind person. I cannot say that because this is your profession, really. But how do you keep care of yourself to helping people, I can say?
It's a good question, because sometimes I am tired and even exhausted, but I'm as professional, understand that I have to give some relax and find some joy for me, even in a wartime. So sometimes I do yoga, sometimes I'm walking outside. I visit museums and try to give me very small like presents from life. I mean, sometimes it's cup of good coffee, sometimes it's a meeting with friends. So very usual, simply things, but really they are working for me now, because during the war we understand how important to be alive, how important to live this life fully.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
In our mind during the war. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And actually, Julia is not the only one who has joined us for this Q&A. So we have Nikita and we have two previous speakers to join us. So can we show them? Yeah, we have them on stage. Perfect. So I think our first question was actually for Vitalijus. So I think it's a really tricky question, to be honest, because I mean, hardware is something so magical when we're used to just, digital technology and everything. So this question is, Vitalijus, what was the greatest challenge in the marketing of your device? And was it hard to launch crowdfunding?
So yeah, probably the hardest part was to find the audience, because let's say stress, anxiety, or even mental health, this word I already heard a lot of times. It's a very huge topic, very huge topic. So you need to find your niche, you need to find the audience. And somehow, for example, for us, we find that biohackers, men's, from 35 to 45 is our first niche audience. But now we have more and more niche audience. And regarding the crowdfunding, so we saw that we lack of credibility because we generated a lot of traffic to our websites and etc. But the conversion rate was bad. So we decided that we need more authority, more credibility. So Indiegogo, it's a good tool for that. If you're successful, after that you have very big credibility. So now, for example, we see that we didn't change nothing basically on UX part on the website, but we have much bigger conversion rates because people are coming and they saw that we had this quite a big sales on Indiegogo. And the second factor of Indiegogo is that because of supply chain, Indiegogo users, when they're buying, for them it's okay to wait 1 year, 2 year. We delivered first products in 1 month, so it was very fast for Indiegogo buyers, for crowdfunding buyers. But for us, it's very good because then we can buy more, let's say, components. This is how we can decrease the costs and etc. Because when you are selling online via web, if you don't have like a 5 days or 3 days delivery, then you are big problem for you. But on the crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, if you are delivering in 1 month, you are a superhero. So this is was two big reasons why we went to crowdfunding.
All right, thank you so much, Vitalijus. And actually, I have the next question for Nikita, to be honest. So actually, the question is pretty simple, I can say. So why did you decide to start this mental health startup? But actually, I think we have to answer the bigger question in the picture. So I know that, founders are usually the ones who bring the idea, who have this idea around them and around their team. So my question to Nikita would be mostly about generating ideas, because I mean, you have the new startup now. So do you live around those ideas? Do they just come to your mind at time to time, or do you make any researches or anything to find them? So are they around you at all times like ghosts, or do you do something to come up with them?
Yeah, so it's a simple question, as you say, but I guess that answer would not be so simple. So regarding the first what, why we decided to go into the mental health rather than other industries, especially other industries in the health tech, because in the beginning, like before we started Exhala, I was with Westwell for some time in a health tech, and I got this idea that a lot of different problems in a different parts of the human body, like different challenges, are connected partially or deeply to the mental health state. So the idea was to start from the a root of the problem, from the mind, to elevate pain in other parts, in other I would say areas, probably in a health stack. It's the first thing. And I guess the second reason why we decided to go straight into the mental health was also about the size of the problem, because probably some of you already discovered that recently World Health Organization says that they remember 1 of 8 adults has some mental disorders all around the world, and it sounds really massively. So we decided to hit the big goal. And also at least a significant part of our small team are mental health practitioners. I would say not the expert, but practitioners. And we are really passionate about this topic, really passionate about mentally stable ourselves, and also help other people to be mentally stronger and mentally more stable. And regarding the second part, so how do we generate ideas and how, I guess, iterate these ideas and go in some research phase with each of them? I would say that definitely we usually have some kind of 3 stages. So any team member, including me or my co-founders, it doesn't matter. So any of us can bring some idea. For example, okay, so we find this new approach or we find this new strategy, and then we discuss it, like to brainstorm and understand that it has some rationale behind it. It's reasonable, not for just one person, but for the whole team. And if it works, if it sounds cool for all of us, we do quickly research with some audience, because it's not so hard in our area. You can just, I don't know, go to your co-working space or whenever and ask people, are you stressed? And they usually say, of course, and you start your customer development. And then if we prove this idea, if we prove the concept with some small audience, we are going deep into the market, find some conclusions, confirmation from the market size also. Market site also.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Nikita. So I have a very direct question for Vitalijus. I'm sorry for this question, but I think we have to answer it because I think every founder at some stage have this question. I mean, you're a seasoned founders now, but I think every founder has this question. So Vitalijus, where did you get your very first money for this?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, where did you get your first money for your startup?
From, it's a friends.
It's a
fools,
tricky
and
question. I
what
know, I
else?
know.
The 3 family. So exactly, it was the story of us, So yeah, but one more time, we needed money for 3 months, because when in the 3 months period we created prototype, we showed to several investors, like I said, and we got investment. So it was success in our case that we need money for a very short period of time, and not so much money to create 3D printed, prototype. It's not a big money to do it. So, it was good in this case.
It was definitely good. Thank you so much, Vitalijus. And we have just 1 minute left for our Q&A, sadly. So the last question would be for Nikita, because Julia has dropped us to join patient session. Good for her. So Nikita, the final question would be for you, and I'll ask you to be as prompt as possible. So Nikita, what one top challenge did you face when building Weatherwell, and how did you and your team overcome it?
Sorry, tech challenge?
No, just one top challenge, one biggest challenge you had. Yeah.
Of course, sure. So basically, we had, I guess, like really a lot of challenges, like any other regular startup. It's totally fine, I guess, for every journey. It's a part of your journey as a startup. But I guess that the most challenging thing was about, as I mentioned in my presentation, the stigmatization of the problem from the one side, and from the other side, it's a low awareness about the problem, because a lot of people, like over centuries, said, okay, so I have some headache or I have some pain in my legs or whatever connected to the weather. But when you try to seriously talk about it and you say, okay, we create the product that predicts this kind of symptoms, and when you will have pain, people, of course, some part of people are happy to get that, but some of them are, okay, is it serious? Is not like some kind of astrology app or tarot app or whatsoever. And like as a product builder, I know, as I said, so it's a challenging way to promote your product and to iterate your product. But with Weatherwell, at least in the initial stage, it was like 3 times harder, because we were need to confirm and to prove our users that it really works.
All right. Thank you so much, Nikita. Thank you so much, Vitalijus. And thank you so much for Julia for joining us for this Q&A session. And I think we have to go forward. So thanks a lot to our speakers for their sessions, for the Q&A, and we have to go forward. All right. So right now, I wanted to remind you that you have this sweet QR code in the corner, which will guide you to the Grand Prix website, where you can find the idea chain and everything to join us. Yeah, you can see this big, giant QR code on your screen right now. Yep, it's gone now, but it's still here. So you can scan this QR code and get over to grandprix.dobra.world, where you'll find everything regarding the idea chain, how you can participate, and make your mental health startup real. So right now, we will give you a little surprise, little gifts, because we were sure that we will talk a lot about theories and everything, but we wanted to show you what bonus is. So right now we'll have a surprise session by a friend of ours. So right now we'll have a mindful session by worldwide famous yoga teacher and guru, Eddie Stern, right from New York. So Eddie is a real star. He's an author, lecturer, researcher, and yoga teacher for such famous students as Madonna, Gwyneth Paltrow, Dawson Cruz, and others. And he's also the author of the Breathing app, so he is a founder too. So let's hear what Eddie has to tell us about wellness and to guide us about wellness.
Greetings. My name is Eddie Stern. I'm a yoga instructor and an author and a researcher from New York City. Yoga is one of the great mind-body practices that we have available to us. There's a lot of discussion about what is the mind, where is the mind, how does the mind work, and that is something that people have not entirely agreed upon. In the yogic tradition, they say that the mind is a neutral field where we have thoughts. Now, our body, we all know where our body is. Our body is right here, and we know how to move it and how to manipulate it. Quite often, it's easier to do something with our body than it is to do something with our mind, because we can see our body, we can see what happens to it when we put it in a new position or do some exercise. But the mind's a little trickier because we can't see it, but we can feel it, and we can sense it, and we can have thoughts. So through doing practices such as yoga, and most importantly, slow breathing, we can understand what the mind is and how different types of things affect it. So one of the main things that affects the mind is stress. That we have a lot of information coming at us throughout the day, causes us to worry, to be afraid, to be fearful, to anticipate the future, to imagine things that might be happening that aren't happening at all, and all other types of ruminations. And often the mind starts going too fast, gets too convoluted with thoughts, and then we experience something that we call stress, which truly is really something called distress. Because stress itself is neutral. It can be good or bad. A positive stress helps us grow. A negative stress over time can be debilitating. So when we have too much incoming information, too much to do, too much on our to-do list, too much time spent in front of a computer, for example, then we start to have this impact occurring in the field of our thoughts. So it's not only just what's happening to our body, what's happening to our brain, what's happening to the nervous system, but what's happening to that field. And how can I keep that field calm, slow, and orderly? So in the yogic tradition, they say the best way to keep the field of mind where thoughts occur calm, slow, and orderly is to first get a hold of your breathing, to understand how to breathe, to understand that you are breathing. And then through slow breathing, you can slow down the speed of your mind, because breath and thoughts are connected. When your breath speeds up, your thoughts naturally speed up. When your thoughts speed up, like if you're really angry or you're very upset, then your breath is naturally going to speed up as well. But if you're sleeping or you observe a baby sleeping, the breathing will be very slow and gentle and effortless. So through slow breathing practices, we can bring that calm state, almost like a state of sleep, but not quite. So what I'm going to do is play some sounds for you. Just listen for a moment. This first sound is going to be a sound that you're going to inhale with. And this next is a sound you exhale along with. Listen one time. this is basically the span of 5 seconds. Inhaling for 5 seconds and exhaling for 5 seconds. The breathing is all going to be through your nose as much as possible. If you have to breathe through your mouth, make sure it's only on the exhalation but not on your inhalation. So let's try just 1 minute of that together. And you're going to inhale now through the nose. Exhale through the nose. Try to line up your breath with the sound. Just one more breath. So normally we breathe somewhere between 15 to 18 breaths per minute. With that practice right there, we were doing 6 breaths in a minute only. Now, 15 to 18 breaths per minute, a normal respiratory pattern for a healthy adult, means general activity, general thought activity as well. You're going about your day doing the things that you do. When the breath goes above 20 breaths per minute or 25 breaths per minute, which happens with people who are chronically stressed, then there's a much more rapid rate of thinking. And also, the emotions tend to get riled up much more quickly as well. And this is because of the way that the respiratory center of the brain is impacting the higher orders of brain function as well. But when we slow the breath down to 6 breaths per minute, it frees up the strategic functioning of the brain for creativity, compassion, empathy, planning, long-range planning, strategic functions, social engagement, all of these types of things that are very helpful for us to be productive and happy in our lives. So simply by slowing the breath down to about 1/3 of what it normally does, it has this entire resetting effect on the nervous system and on how we think. So we're going to try this again. And this time we're going to try it for 2 minutes. We did it for 1 minute before. Now we'll do it for 2 minutes. And this time, in these 2 minutes, we are going to breathe a total of 12 times. So I'll talk you through the first one, and then I'll let you try it on your own for the next 11 breaths, okay? So sit comfortably straight. If you want to, you can sit up a little straighter in your chair until you feel the sit bones or the bones of the right at the edge of the buttocks, that you're leaning forward on those a little. If you lean a little forward onto the sit bones and then lean back onto them, the spine naturally comes straight. And then the shoulders stay relaxed, the chin is just slightly down, and if you're able to rest your tongue against the roof of the mouth, you can do that as well. Breathing through the nose as much as possible. Don't worry about the lungs or where the breath is going in the body. Mainly focus on the sensation of breath in the nostrils. Inhaling and exhaling. On your own, breath flows in. Letting your awareness be in the nasal cavity with the breath. Think about smooth and even. Not deep, your breath. And the final one. And now close your eyes and do one more resonant breath on your own. And now sit quietly with the eyes closed for a moment. Let the breath flow into any natural pattern. Notice any changes in your body or in your mind, meaning the rate of your thoughts. And then to finish, we'll breathe one long breath in together and a slow exhalation through the nose. And then slowly let the eyelids flutter open. So this is a very simple practice. It's called resonance breathing. Resonance is when two or more patterns come into the same synovial wave at the same time. And so through this breathing, we're bringing a respiratory pattern, our heart rate variability, and the monitoring of the baroreceptors, which are monitoring our blood pressure. All those things come into the same synovial wave at the same time. And our brain waves as well move into that same wave function too. So we have heart and blood pressure, respiration, and brainwave patterns all coming into coherence at the same time. Serves as a very simple reset button for the entire body-mind complex. So I hope you enjoyed this practice. You can do it anytime you like during the day. The sounds were something called the Breathing app, which is a free app. You can get it on iTunes or Google Play and use it whenever you feel stressed and use it whenever you don't feel stressed as well. And thank you for inviting me. I give it back to the awesome organizers of the DÓBRA conference, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Eddie. And I think this was a wonderful gift from his to our side to showcase what is wellness and how it works out in breathing way. So right now we have to go forward, and I have three delightful speakers to join me right now. So we do have a few people waiting in the green room, and right now it's time for a panel discussion. So for the next approximately 40 minutes, we wanted to discuss with a handful of experts in that field, the mental health field, and actually in gathering using data on how we can collect and use the data we have on mental health and what is next on that data and its use right now. And we wanted to ask your questions too. So right now, can we show the wonderful QR code with a Slido link to it? Yep, thank you. You can scan this QR code right now and ask your questions right when we will have the panel discussion. And we'll ask your question too. I think you have them by now. But right now, I will ask my fellow speakers to join me right now and turn on their microphones and cameras and everything. I can see this is happening right now. Perfect. All right. So, yep, my fellow speakers are joining me right now. And for the next 40 minutes, we will discuss and I think we'll showcase on how we can actually gather the data and what data means for us to, build the world-class mental health products, and we'll actually talk about building those products. So right now, without me introducing the speakers, I'll ask them to do that. I think you are better and you have better knowledge than I do on what do you do and why this is important for mental health. So can we start, for example, with Dr. Isaac Moshe from Finland, who's the postdoctoral researcher at the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Helsinki. Isaac, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what do you do and why are you here tonight?
Sure. Hi, Alexander. Hello to everyone joining remotely. So as Alexander said, my name is Isaac Moshe. I am a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Helsinki, Finland. And broadly, my research is motivated by the question of what is the most effective way to treat mental illness at scale. And a major part of that, or my focus, is on the role of new technologies. So how can we leverage digital interventions, new technologies, internet, smartphone, and then also wearable devices to improve the accessibility and the efficacy of mental health care. So looking forward to talking more about that over the next 40 minutes.
Lovely.
Happy also to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, we have another big guy here. So, Ed Evans, can you tell us more about yourself? I have heard that you're a senior consultant at the Open Data Institute, which sounds really big, doesn't it?
That's right. Yeah. Hi, everybody. And I apologize for my background here. I didn't realize I had that from a previous talk I was doing, but I'm meant to be on a spaceship somewhere. But nice to meet everyone. So, yeah, I'm a consultant with the Open Data Institute. The Open Data Institute in London is a not-for-profit organization that looks at open and shared data as a way to create value. It was founded 10 years ago by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, you've probably heard of, the inventor of the World Wide Web, and Sir Nigel Shadbolt, who's an expert in AI and data at the University of Oxford, in order to help governments to develop open and shared ecosystems. And that issue, sharing data now, has become a much more widespread phenomenon. So that's been really successful. I'm not an expert in health data. I have worked on a number of health data projects, and I've worked with data ethics on data for health insurers. And I've worked recently actually with King's College London and Wellcome Institute on a project to look at mental health data, finding longitudinal data sets. So I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk a little bit more about that, what we found, what data was available, what data wasn't available, because I'm really interested in the idea of why data isn't available and what we can do to help organizations recognize the benefits of sharing data and how they maybe overcome the barriers. So really pleased to be here.
Absolutely. I think we'll talk about that in just a minute. And our final speaker for today is Professor Murat Asanovic, who's a specialist in psychological support at Goodwill. Murat, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and what do you do?
Certainly, glad to see all the participants. I'm from Grodno, Belarus, and I'm more than over 26 years work on the mental health field as a practitioner, psychotherapist, and researcher in mental health field in the psychometrics. And now, for about a year, I'm working in Goodwill project, and I will be glad to speak and tell the participants and all others who here are meeting about Goodwill project, because this project is devoted to improving emotional well-being and mental health and collecting big data in mental health field. I think it will be interesting.
Lovely. Perfect. Thank you so much, Murat. All right. So I think we should start with Ed, to be honest. Why is that? So I think the thing is, for a few years now, I mean, more than that, we've been talking about big data and everything. We heard big data in everything, advertising, mental health, general health, everything. Right now, we don't talk about big data all the time, but we actually live with it right now. So my question for this panel discussion mostly is this data real first, and can we actually use it? Because from my side, from what I see, most of the data is not really structured enough, and we have to do lots of steps and things to actually make it work for us. So my question to Ed right now would be, can you tell us a little bit about getting that data, and how do you actually try to find the things you try to find, I mean, about mental health and everything. So how do you structure your researches and everything? And how does it work in mental health? Because we just need to share with the, newcomers and new founders on why is data collected? Because I think we don't always ask this question on why. So can you tell us about the process of the data collection, and how do you do that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because data is collected for a particular purpose, and quite often the purpose doesn't include reuse of the data. So even when data has been collected and published and made available, it's not always clear how or when it may be reused. So people are not collecting additional data that would make that data set more helpful and more useful. To talk a little bit about the program with KCL Welcome, if that's useful. What we were looking for was longitudinal data that has been collected over a period of time, that looked at health measures over maybe 3 years or 4 years, looking at younger people between the ages of 14 and 30. We were looking specifically for that. And we were looking for data sets of more than 8,000 subjects. So by having the criteria, it helps you to hone in on what data is available and what data is useful. What we're also conscious of is that, and you know, the experts here in mental health will know this better than I do, is that there are a lot of contextual information that impacts mental health that could be really useful as well. So for that data set, if we knew something about the relative income or the educational attainment or the you know, sort of food poverty issues, then that can help too. So we wanted to try and identify where some of the open data might be available on existing portals as well. But yeah, so there are challenges to looking at the data with necessarily the purpose that it's going to be used for. And one thing we find is that each sector and the health sector is an example of that, has its own unique challenges. So we're talking about some of the most sensitive data here, some of the most sensitive personal data. So aspects of personal data are covered by legal controls, but and consent is asked for when data is collected initially, but that consent may not extend to reuse of the data. So there's a big challenge there about how we can either anonymize the data for reuse, or we can find ways of extending the consent so that it can be reused. So that's one of the biggest challenges.
All right, that's a lot of challenges, and we just have started. All right, so I have the next question to Isaac, actually, to dive in a little bit more into that question. So Isaac, I know you have worked with different types of data. So my question would be that actually there are various types of data that can be used for predicting mental health issues, such as self-reported data or physiological data, all kinds of data. Can you tell us a little bit more about your experience and which type of data has shown the most promising results for predicting something with mental health? Because I mean, most of the times we try to do something in mental health is to predict what's going to happen to the fellow human being. Can you tell us about, I mean, limitations of those sources and what sources are the most useful to you and where most useful to you in your experience so far?
I mean, ultimately, it depends on, like, what are you trying to predict? Like, what are the endpoints? If we're thinking about clinical outcome measures, then, of course, self-report, they're designed specifically to correlate and predict clinical outcome measures. So I would say that has the highest predictive power. However, we also know that we're not always able to grab self-report data. There's sometimes quite a high burden on the individual to complete self-report data. And that's where some of the research that I've been doing with smartphone and wearable devices have been particularly interesting. So looking at, okay, in instances where maybe we don't have the self-report data, can we look at behavioral data from, for example, the smartphone? So smartphone GPS is a great way to be able to look at location data, movement data. We've got accelerometers at phones, so we can see exercise. Beyond the smartphone data, now, of course, we've got, you know, an explosion of wearable devices, and these wearable devices come packed with the ability to capture behavioral data, for example, sleep, but also physiological markers, such as heart rate variability. And we, you know, each there's no one data source which kind of perfectly predicts, or perfectly associated with clinical outcomes. We did a study a couple of years ago with the Oura Ring, which is a sleep ring. It's a validated measure of sleep. And we looked at to what extent we could predict symptoms of depression and anxiety from smartphone GPS data and the Oura Ring data. And we found in that study that, and we also did some self-report data. And in that study, we actually found that the self-report data had the highest kind of predictive power. So asking people just very briefly, like, once a day, how are they feeling? 2 questions. That significantly predicted the depression and anxiety. But we also found it wasn't as strong that the movement data from the GPS, specifically how much variation people had in their movement each day, significantly predicted symptoms of depression. And then finally, we found that from the Oura Ring, the amount of time people stayed in bed, the total sleep time, was also a significant predictor of depressive symptoms. And then when it came to anxiety, we found that the amount of time they woke up during the night was a significant predictor of anxiety. So what we found is that different data sources differentially predicted different symptoms. And what was important is that to have the highest predictive power was achieved by combining the different data sources. And that I really think speaks to Ed's point of the need to stitch together these different data sources. If we had, for example, richer baseline data from these individuals, I've no doubt that the predictive power would have been higher if we had their, data from the electronic medical records. So that's the challenge there. But yeah, there's a lot of valuable data being gathered. It's about how we bring it together, and then how we structure the data and the models to predict.
And actually talking about different types of data and structuring and making it work together, I hear another question to you about, it's different types of data, to my feeling, when you collect it from a smartphone and from a wearable device. Can you tell us a little bit more about the differences between these 2 types of data, which can be actually pretty close to each other? I mean, when you have a wearable to count steps and everything, you have a smartphone. So, I mean, talking from a just consumer point of view, it's almost the same, but I think to you as a researcher, I think it should be different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And actually what we found, which when you think about it, is probably not surprising, is that if you just take, for example, step count, to your point, step count from the wearable device, the Oura Ring, was significantly higher than from the iPhone, which is, is understandable because you have the Oura Ring on you at all times. Whereas the iPhone I don't have with me at all times. So, arguably it's a more accurate, the wearable device is a more accurate measure of step count. The other thing is that when it comes to sleep, there's been no, as far as I know, there's been no research which has shown that any of the actual apps from smartphones have like high correlation and are kind of robust measures of the different sleep stages compared to something like the Oura Ring. You need the kind of the measure, the blood oxygen levels. You need, all of the. It's very complicated. You need all of the different data points that go into something like an Oura Ring to be able to predict sleep stages, and we just don't have that yet on the iPhone. So we're looking as researchers for robust measures that correlate highly with kind of gold standard sleep lab. And there aren't that many out there, and certainly none of the phones do that yet.
Lovely, thank you. Right, I have a question for you actually. So we were talking about collecting using data, and you're actually working, you're doing a game. So you have told us about collecting data. Can you tell us a little bit more about your research as you do for your game and your players' mental health, and what do you do to research it?
Okay, thank you. First of all, let me introduce what is Goodwill project. is simultaneously is a research project and practical application based on a mobile game installing on smartphones and downloadable from app stores. It's a farm game. The game's concept is that the main character girl Jane, builds and develops a farm. And by managing the character, the player completes various quests, progresses in the game, and passes through the emotional well-being module, which is integrated in this game. This module consists of two parts or two blocks. First block is an assessment block. It aims to evaluate various aspects of emotional well-being and mental health, such as symptoms of depression, anxiety, sleep quality, cognitive functions, stress load, eating habits, physical activity. Users complete self-assessment questionnaires and then scales, and then receive verbal and graphical feedback on their results. We collect this data, then we make analysis of this data, psychometric analysis and statistical analysis, and then make some inference, conclusions, publish articles, and so on. By taking tests repeatedly, many times, for some tests, users may pass every day. They can track changes in their psychological state, emotional state of mind. And the therapeutic block includes a character named Dr. So Cool, who conducts conversations with the main character Jane on topics devoted to mental health, maintaining mental health, improving emotional well-being, managing stress, emotions, and more. In addition, the game includes the whole building incorporated in the game's landscape. It's a Dr. So Cool lab, which offers therapeutic and educational tips for coping with anxiety, depression, improving sleep, therapeutic tips and interventions. And the user's mastery of therapeutic techniques is assessed through regional survey. When user practice for some period of time.
Okay, I guess Marius have used it himself.
And
okay, you're back. Yeah, thank you.
And then we assess their experience in these therapeutic techniques. Among the features and mechanism of goodwill effectiveness are a gamified approach to implementation of this module, the use of various assessment methods and therapeutic techniques, and the application of specific technologies for data validity checking and data analysis. And my role in this project is to advance this project, to implement new therapeutic tips, modules, and new other assessment methods, and develop this project, make data analysis, and so on.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Marius. So before we move on to the use of data, I wanted to get back a little bit to Isaac again. Sorry, Isaac. So I wanted to talk to you about the physical thing, because we have talked a lot about, the research and data we get directly from users or from, how they feel, but actually we do have something interesting in our bodies. Can you talk a little bit about the biomarkers, such as those found in our blood or saliva, in predicting symptoms of mental health issues, which could be evolving in the next few years, I guess, as far as we see. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what you have seen in your experience with the biomarkers and them predicting the mental health issues?
So, most of my research has been on so-called digital biomarkers or digital phenotyping data. So I can speak to that. Maybe I'll speak to that in a moment. I'm not an expert on the actual biological markers, but what I do know is that we still haven't found many robust neurological or biological markers. I think that's one of the biggest challenges when it comes to mental disorders, is really getting an understanding of kind of what the underlying etiology of the disorder is. That said, there is some kind of interesting or kind of promising developments on plasma and saliva cortisol levels. So there is quite a large body of research on the relationship between cortisol and anxiety disorders, and then related stress and burnout. So I think that there is potentially a future where we can capture that data more readily. You know, we're already using our phones, for example, as kind of alcohol breathalyzer devices. So potentially we could be using that to capture other sort of biological markers. What we can do now, though, is on the digital biomarker side, there is a wealth of data already out there. I mean, constantly, it's a constant exhaust from every interaction we have with a digital device. And I think this is where there's huge potential in the coming years to really mine that data. So we talked already about the phone. In studies that I've done so far, we've only really looked at a subset of the data there. So for example, you know, turning how often you're using your phone, but we can go much more granularly, and some studies have, to look at what apps you're using, how often you're using those apps. You know, what are you typing? How are you typing? You know, are you typing something and then deleting it and then going back again and then deleting it, etc. So I think there's more and more there. I think as technology unfolds, for example, with using the microphone for vocal biomarkers, that's something that's emerging. And there's a couple of labs that are demonstrating that actually there's significant promise in vocal biomarkers to detect symptoms of different mental disorders. But then again, I think the really interesting part comes when we start to think about combining those and looking at it at an individual level. One of the biggest challenges right now, I think, is that there's still a lot of mixed findings in the field, and that's because it's still very early. So that's natural. It's great that we're starting, but kind of future researchers, future entrepreneurs that are looking into this space, I think they could benefit from trying to replicate the studies and then using larger samples, and then potentially looking at more novel techniques, machine learning techniques, to identify patterns that, you know, we may not be identifying from the more classical statistical methods. So that's kind of where I would take it, or I think is most interesting in terms of the research side, and has the most potential.
Perfect, thank you. We're slowly getting to the big question of the ChatGPT. Of course, I have to ask you about that. But before that, I have a very big question for ads. So, I mean, now it's true, we have talked about it. We have just loads and loads of data, and it's just, you know, pouring every day in. There's like unstoppable amount of data going into our hands, and even, you know, somewhere else, we don't know where. So my question is, who will have access to these data sets in the future, and what measures are there in place to ensure the privacy and confidentiality are met? Because, I mean, we can see there's loads of data, and actually we don't have many answers to the question of where this data will go if and when the future actually happens. So do you have the info on that?
There's quite a few aspects of that, but I thought Isaac sort of articulated the growth and the development of different data types and the volume of data very well. I mean, the growth of data is going beyond our capability to use it effectively at the moment, because a lot of it is kind of unstructured, or not structured in the way that we would recognize from you know, even 5 or 10 years ago. And you know, there's something that goes through my mind all the time, is that all data is valuable, but all data is not equally valuable. You have to be able to find the nuggets. You have to find you have to be able to go through a lot of data in order to find the data you're looking for. And of course, machine power and processing power allows us to do that more and more. But the key thing is, when data is being collected, is to try to capture information along with the data, what we call metadata, that makes it more reusable. And the timestamp and the location stamp are pretty clear indicators of that help it to be reused, and perhaps are not quite so easily identifiable as the person or the subject. So by aggregating the subjects within a particular geographical area, then you can anonymize the data. So there are ways of masking data, there are ways of anonymizing data, there are ways of processing data where the subject is known, but behind closed doors, and then producing the analysis, which the analysis itself is anonymous. So we have to find ways of protecting the individuals, the people that the data is being collected, and we have to find institutions or data institutions that we trust to process that data on our behalf, and to deal with the data ethically, and to recognize the equity and the value of the data that's in there, but to protect the subjects. So yeah, there's a lot of sort of work that goes into trying to provide, and I mentioned before, NHS in the UK, NHS Digital does a great job of taking personal data, processing that behind closed doors, producing the analysis using AI, ML, and the latest algorithms, but without revealing the individuals that the data related to. So there are techniques and tools to do that, and we need to make sure that people are educated on that, and that the individuals who provide consent maybe should be given a level of equity in the results of the data as well. If they can feel they're getting some benefit from that, then they will be more willing to share their data and more willing to recognize the consent for reuse if they could see some benefit for that too. And that happens in a number of different areas. Excuse me, I've got a bit...
Yeah, you actually predicted my question about the suggestions to the new founders. I mean, this was my question, because I mean, new founders are usually, they're like in space, where they know nothing and there's just loads of info and everything. So Isaac, maybe you have any suggestions for new founders on what factors should they consider when collecting and sharing the data, apart from the metadata and masking the data, maybe even gifts and tokens for sharing the data? What do you think new founders should do when they collect the data to make sure it is being, good for the future and not just for the current situation for the founders?
Good question. I think the first and most important thing, well, actually, I think the first and most important thing is regards to privacy and ethical use. I mean, that's paramount. So putting together and putting the protocols in place to make sure that they're transparent about how they're using the data, what data they're gathering. That's the kind of the non-negotiable part. And then after that, I think getting a proper understanding, and this is where I think we can explore data, but really I found that having a very clear idea and being laser focused on what is the problem you're solving, because as Ed attested to, there is just a tremendous amount of data out there, and you can get very lost in all of that data. And there's two ways to explore that. It's like, once you get an understanding of, okay, this is what we're trying to solve for. Now let's look at some of the theoretical models. Let's look at some of the existing literature, the existing research, and think about, okay, what could be viable data points in order to inform our work focused on that problem. And then, of course, there's the exploration part that's going beyond the kind of, the a priori assumptions in the theoretical frameworks, and exploring data using kind of maybe machine learning models to see if we can learn something new and advance kind of theoretical models based on seeing patterns that haven't been identified before. But I think it does need to stem very much from, like, why are we collecting this data in the first place? Otherwise, it's very much an unguided search, and that's not always going to yield positive outcomes.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Isaac. So right now, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about using the data, because we have talked a lot about collecting the data and making sure it's, it's good for everyone and for every side here. But I think we have a great person to help us with the answer. I mean, I will not question you about the ChatGPT. I mean, everyone talks about it right now. I will talk about the use of data and actually how we can do that and maximize the benefits to the end user. So right now, lots of people are talking about replacing the traditional therapy with ChatGPT and everything, which is, I don't think is possible right now. But I have a question from Murat right now. So Murat, while a game can never, I mean, game, ChatGPT, everything digital can never right now replace the full traditional licensed psychologist, how can gaming interventions complement or enhance the traditional therapy? And how can those two be integrated? And I think when I'm saying the game, I mean, it can be game, chat, anything. I think it's really close to each other, to be honest.
Thank you for this interesting and important questions, because there are many huge amount of various apps devoted to psychotherapy, mental health help, and this may be the center of understanding for using these apps, not and to help people. First of all, psychotherapy can be divided into 5 components: diagnosis, establishment of alliance therapeutic relationships, then dynamics of process, therapeutic techniques, and support sessions. Game-based assessment and therapeutic interventions can be used in the diagnosis and monitoring of the client's psychological state, control of the therapeutic process, and teaching the therapeutic techniques. It may be using in apps and in smartphones and web platforms and other sources. Since the effectiveness of psychotherapy is closely related to patients' involvement in the therapeutic process, gamification of therapeutic interventions can significantly increase the effectiveness by increasing user engagement in psychotherapy. And of course, gamification helps to master therapeutic techniques, such as in Goodwill therapeutic module and their actual application when encountering symptoms. For example, for such severe mental disorder as obsessive compulsive disorder, an effective intervention is exposure and response prevention therapy, ERRP. And patient with OCD can learn ERP therapy using gamified applications and use them in real time to cope with obsessions and compulsions. The same is actual for panic attacks and other mental problems. Gamification reduces tension and fear of symptoms, making the coping process more exciting and interesting. Encourage patients and clients to cope with symptoms using gamified applications. Naturally, to achieve maximum benefit, it is desirable that game interventions be integrated in the whole therapeutic process. Psychotherapists or psychologists should be aware of the use of such applications by their clients, be able to recommend them to control their use, and assist in the application of game interventions, and jointly evaluate the tracking of the client's conditions using the application, and so on. Gamified therapeutic applications can undoubtedly benefit users for whom traditional psychotherapy is unavailable. In particular, this topic may be relevant for migrants due to their financial and language problems and barriers. As a supporter and representative of relational object-oriented approach in psychotherapy, I can say that game therapeutic applications can become objects of therapeutic interaction for some users. In addition, the application can include a real psychotherapist character in the game Now, for example, in Goodwill, there is a doctor so cool, or connect the user with a specialist via video or audio communication. I think that's all in short.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Murat. I think we don't have enough time to discuss everything. I was thinking that 40 minutes is just too much, but I think it's just, we have just started talking about all this. So it's my sorry, my regret that I have to let you go, but we have to, because we have our next session just coming up. But thank you so much, Ed, Isaac, and Marit for joining us for this one, because we just had to talk about the data and loads of data coming, storing, and using right now. And I think we have covered even a little bit, but a big little bit. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us for this session. And we have our next session coming up. So right now, we'll hear a talk from Kristina Kruganska from Ukrainian. So she's the head of the board of the Civil Association of DÓBRA, and she will talk about psychological rehabilitation of military personnel and veterans through digital in war conditions in Ukraine. So let's talk what Kristina has to say about this.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kristina Poganska. I am a founder of Project DÓBRA. It is the psychological rehabilitation of people in Ukraine and the condition of the war. Thank you for invitation, and I hope this information will be much useful for you in future or in current situation. The idea is that actually more than 1 year we are living in war condition, and the condition of the war is really stressful for everyone. And let me give you just a quick overview of the current situation of the mental health in Ukraine because of the condition of the war. So according to the information of the Ministry of Health of Ukraine, the 40 million Ukrainian people need immediate psychological assistance. And around 10 million Ukrainians have risk of developing psychological disorders caused the war. This is according to data of the World Health Organization here. Around 51% of the military personnel need immediate specified psychological interventions. And actually, at the present, we have around 1 million military personnel and 1.2 million of veterans. And by the end of the war, we expect around 4 and 5 million veterans and around 12 million together with their family and members. This is the official information of the Ministry of Veterans in Ukraine. So that's why the project came from the huge problem of the mental health conditions of the people, and also of the problem of the numbers of professionals with the experience of psychological rehabilitation under law, under current situation is the critically low. So that's why we actually create DÓBRA, because we want to change this situation and help our people to become a normal mental health. And it is a really big part of rebuild of our country. About the problems, I think, like if we go into our practical experience, because we are working with the military personnel in on the base of the Kiev Hospital of Veteran Wars. So our psychologists are currently facing with a lot of different type of mental problems and also disorders, like starting from the increased irritability or have some desire to isolate oneself from the other people, and comes to depressive conditions or suicidal thoughts, even adaptation disorders and or sleep disorders. So problems are really a lot. So that's why we launched DÓBRA. It is the platform for qualified psychological rehabilitation center or maybe centers. We plan to develop it by the all Ukrainian territory, effect to the Ukrainians who are affected by the war, based on medical and rehabilitation instruction of Ukraine and the world best technologies. What is our target groups? For now, we are target on prioritized on military personnel, the combatants, veterans, and also their family members in Ukraine or abroad, and also mobilize employees. Our focus on our work is the psychological rehabilitation under the condition of the war. It's like PTSD, depression, and addiction. In cooperation with the city's clinical hospital of war veterans, starting from January of this year, we tested 86 patients. Among them, we have 16% as the first group. This is that group that chose usually mastering self-assistant techniques. It's quite self-stabilized nervous system and psychological or mental health of the person. They're able to adapt, and they need just psychological education and maybe some tools how to develop their resilience during some critical situation. The second group, we have more than 74%. This is the second group. This is the group of symptoms of moderate severity with the one of the more signs of PTSD or their adjustment disorders. And only 10% is this third group. It's distinct evidence of distress and PTSD symptoms, depression and suicidal thoughts. But in the normal situation is the really high percent as well, because 10% in general is the really high percent. Ukrainian situation is the unique in Europe because of the quantity of the problems, because of the population who are here in Ukraine or abroad on the old territory of any other countries. For now, we focused on the first of one, that is a cooperation with the Kyiv City Clinical Hospital of the Veteran Wars. We are on fundraising process every time, and we're looking for new platforms and specialists who work, because we would like to, and we have enough capacity to develop this kind of methodology to aid other hospitals and rehabilitation centers in Ukraine. But anyway, we are this kind of condition. So I think technological solution should aim to reduce barriers to psychiatric care or psychiatric and psychological care, and improve the quality of the life of the people with mental disorders. I think this is the main goal of the kind of tech solutions. So new technologies such as we mentioned, this artificial intelligence, machine learning, and virtual reality combined with the evidence-based methods could be used to achieve these goals. Only one point I would like to add, this is that our power is united. It doesn't mean, let's say, just in Ukraine or whatever in world. So I think only united our skills and knowledge and technologies, we could create really huge and important projects of mental health of the people, and create a more healthy nation, or just to create some tools to save this health for all of our human in the world, I think.
Thank you so much, Christina, for sharing that. And actually, it's now been 2 hours of really packed knowledge from startup founders, from experts, and it's been a lot. And I think it's time for a wrap up from DÓBRA's team. So please welcome DÓBRA's founders, Alexander Skrabowski and Daria Zhuk. I think we have something to hear from them regarding that.
Yeah, Alexander, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you to you for the best host that I have been seen in my life, maybe. Yeah, in my previous decade, it's conscious. So, thank you so much. Thank you all of you for joining us tonight. Thank you, my team, and our private and institutional investors that support us and enabling to do so activity. We hope it was useful for you. We hope we will have some batch of startups from it, and especially thanks for USAID Innovate and Pixar Global for supporting us from the very beginning on our lands, on our international journey. Thank you.
So it's not the end, it's just the beginning. We welcome you to join our Idea Chain platform for these mind sharing and co-generation days. You know, creativity is not a gift or any unique skill. For instance, how I was used to think. It's really just an experience, a valuable experience that we can all have, an experience that in our case can make the world a better place. So please, and thank you for joining, and have a great day.
Yeah, I mentioned that we strongly believe in human intelligence and artificial intelligence, but we as well as strongly believe in creativity, and we have tools for it. Please join to Idea Chain right now, tomorrow, and in a week for second day when we will create new, fresh solution. You have no specific ability for it. We have Idea Chain, yeah.
During the whole March, you have a lot of different activities. So follow us in our socials, on our websites, and so please be connected. And at the end, we're going to have a great concept solutions, and then startups that we're going to take into the studio and grow them.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Alexander. Thank you so much, Daria. And I don't have so much to say, to be honest, because everything was said today. So my only thing right now is just to remind you once again to join us at Idea Chain to DÓBRA Worlds. Can we show that once again? Yeah, we can see that. So Idea Chain, the DÓBRA Worlds. Please join us. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. So you now have the knowledge, and now you can try doing something and try sharing your ideas with others and see what others have now thought about. So join us at ideachain.dobra.world and see what you can build in mental health sector. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks a lot from DÓBRA team. Thank you so much for everyone for staying with us for these 2 hours. It's been a lovely journey so far, and it has just begun. So see you on the platform. So thank you so much. Have a nice evening ahead, and see you on the platform.
Choose the topic you want to influence. Share your mind with hundreds like you. Redefine the problem. Choose creative techniques and generate solutions. Cooperate and enrich. Idea Chain, a brand new approach for inventing solutions.